I'm a big fan of the London Overground, which will come as a surprise to literally no one. And when it comes to choosing a favourite station, there's really only one contender. That is Camden Road. For the simple reason that it's just gorgeous. The station opened in 1870, but it actually replaced another station slightly to the west, which opened in 1850. The company that built this first station was called the East and West India Docks and Birmingham Junction Railway. Sometimes the smallest railways choose the grandest titles, and the East and West India etc. was no exception. The idea behind this was to connect the London and Birmingham Railway at Chalk Farm, hence the Birmingham Junction bit, with the docks of London, hence the East and West India Docks part. In 1853, though, the railway changed its name to the simpler North London Railway, possibly because, by the time the link was completed in 1851, the London and Birmingham Railway had become part of the London and North Western Railway. But also, perhaps, because the focus of the railway had very quickly changed. The original aim was to make money by letting other companies, mostly the London and North Western, run goods trains over it. But they soon discovered that there was a market for passenger trains. It became one of London's first commuter railways, in fact, and would eventually run trains all the way to Richmond in West London, as well as its own rather impressive city terminus at Broad Street. The station was known as Camden Town when it first opened. For a few months it was the northern terminus of the line. The railway company had some trouble acquiring property between Camden Town and the junction, and so completion of the link was held up until 1851. In 1853, Camden Town was renamed to Camden Road. In 1855, a dramatic incident occurred when a locomotive suffered a boiler explosion due to defective welding. The engine was built by a company called Stothert and Slaughter, but in a piece of happy irony, there were no deaths or even injuries, because the driver and fireman were having a tea break, which I guess is the opposite of dying for a cuppa. Then in 1870 they renamed it Camden Town again. Then they closed the station and built a new one, which is what you've been looking at. By this time, the North London Railway was really coming into its own. The original Camden Town station had been a simple timber structure, but that wouldn't do for the prestigious passenger line the North London Railway had become. They hired the architect E. H. Horne to rebuild Camden Town, plus Highbury and Islington, Bow, Barnsbury, Canonbury and Hackney in a Venetian Gothic style. Architecture in the North London's early days had been practically non-existent, consisting of tiny, low-cost stations, built to fit on whatever pockets of land the railway could acquire on the cheap. Not so the new stations. Camden Road is practically an advert for the style and comfort of the North London Railway, with its imposing corner site and its 3 platforms. 3? I'll come back to that. Regular passengers might have argued that the station promised what the trains couldn't deliver, but as long as they paid their fare, I don't think the company was particularly bothered. In the 1870s, they had bigger things to worry about. The railway started to come under threat from buses, and then, from about 1900, from trams. Both of these were cheaper than the trains, and so passenger numbers started to decline. The idea of electrifying the line was considered, but in the end they turned to the London and North Western Railway, remember them? The LNWR took over operations of the North London Railway in 1909 and eventually bought them out completely in 1922, a year before they themselves were absorbed into the London Midland and Scottish Railway. Railway history is never simple, is it? Under the London, Midland and Scottish, things did not improve, quite the opposite. Passenger numbers continued to dwindle and the LMS responded by doing nothing. Those passengers who stayed complained that the stations had inadequate signage and that they were dirty and poorly maintained. The line gained the rather unflattering nickname of the Forgotten Railway. I have a mental image of an LMS official laughing in a hollow manner and saying, "I wish." In 1950, Camden Town was renamed, once again, to Camden Road. This was to avoid confusion with Camden Town Underground station down the road. Which took them long enough. Camden Town had been there for 43 years at this point. In the 1960s, the line was electrified, but at the same time the future was looking rather bleak. Dr. Beeching had published his infamous modernisation report, which recommended removing many of the passenger services along the North London line. Local authorities campaigned instead for the line to be turned into an underground line. It wasn't, but in 1965 British Railways changed their minds vis-à-vis closure. The North London line would later appear on tube maps as a sort of honorary line. That didn't bring the passengers back, though. Although Camden Road was doing alright in this period, the relatively heavily used section from Willesden Junction to Highbury and Islington, which Camden Road was on, was more or less providing the main justification for keeping the whole line open. You may have noticed that there's a bridge here that carries no track. Those tracks, as were reserved for freight trains, Platform 3 at Camden Road having long since been taken out of use. But by the 1980s, both passenger and freight trains had declined to the point where British Rail, owners of the line at that point, decided they didn't need them. Rather than pay to maintain the track and bridges, they just closed the line in 1981 and routed everything over to the remaining 2 tracks. In 1986, the commuter lines of London came under Network South East, a scheme to revitalise a somewhat depressed network. As part of this, in 1989, Camden Road got a new booking hall. In 1994, the Railways of Britain were privatised, and the North London line fell under Silverlink Metro, but that wouldn't last for long, and in 2007 it became part of Transport for London's Overground network. And that, more or less, is where we are today. The days of the forgotten railway are, well, long forgotten, and the line sees a frequent service. Camden is a popular destination these days, and if you're in the know, Camden Road is a station that lets you avoid the crowds and provides connection with other fashionable places in North and East London. The station building is Grade 2 listed. In the running down of the North London line, we lost most of E.H. Horn's stations. The only other survivor is at Hackney, but Camden Road is the only one still in use as a station. There are plans for the future. One idea is to reopen the closed Platform 3 to enable trains to terminate there. Another, perhaps more exciting plan is to reopen that disused route I mentioned earlier. Not as a railway, but as a park. The project is known as the Camden High Line and would run from Camden Road to King's Cross along the viaduct. The hope is that it will open in 2025. I don't know what exactly the future holds for Camden Road, but it's probably quite exciting. Before I get to my little ending spiel, one last thing. Have you ever noticed this building in Camden Town? This was the Bowman Brothers department store. Look at this steam engine mosaic. And look at this steam locomotive. That's a North London Railway Class 75. A type of engine that would have worked through Camden Road on goods trains. In other words, whoever came up with these mosaics clearly looked to the North London Railway for their inspiration. And why not? Good evening, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, please do click the like button and perhaps subscribe for more. I'd like to thank my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon for their ever-generous support. You are the viaduct to my High Line. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio.